Hey, this is Trevor from the Black Dahlia Murder here, and you're watching Heavy New York.
Heavy New York!
What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at Lucky 13 Saloon, and we return with a familiar face, Trevor of the Black Dahlia Murder. Thank you so much for your time.
Yo, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's so great to have you back. So the new album, Verminous, the first song you release is absolutely kick-ass. Could this first track maybe serve as like a good representation of what the entirety of the album is going to sound like, or is this just maybe like the tip of the iceberg?
I'd really say it's a tip of the iceberg, you know. It's a very straightforward track compared to some of them on the album. There's a real variety in this record. I think more variety between songs than we've ever had. And that's something we've been striving for, like, in the last handful of records, you know what I mean? To really make an album that is like a roller coaster with lots of ups and downs and dynamics. And, yeah, it's kind of all over the map. So, you know, Verminous, the song, is a straightforward thrasher, but there's all kinds of stuff to come. Lots of groovy songs, some mid-paced songs.
Some ballads?
No, not quite. Maybe someday.
You never know. Well, do you consider this just picking up where you left off after Nightbringers, or do you think that this kind of, in a way, maybe stands out a little bit in the Black Dahlia catalog?
I think it's the biggest evolutionary jump we've taken between two albums. And, like, in a way, Nightbringers is kind of the flavor of what's to come, you know, like having Brandon come into the fold and him putting his stamp on that record definitely kind of marked a new era for us, I feel like. And this new record sees him and coming into like full bloom with the band, you know, and he's really throwing down the gauntlet with what he's brought to the band this time. So yeah, I feel like I don't know, like I hate to use the word maturing because I think that kind of scares people in the realm of metal. You think of maturity, and I think you think of like selling out or like being bad or something. But you know, just as we've gotten older as a band, I think that we've learned how to be better musicians. I think we've learned how to write better songs, and a lot of it is in the really small details of things, like the really small ins and outs of songwriting. And you know, we used a lot of clever ideas this time. There's a lot of like textures and a lot of emotive parts that kind of evoke an emotion in the listener, which is, you know, all you can ask for, really, all you want, you know. We want to be a dramatic band, you know, a cinematic band, like something that's want it to feel like a story or a ride, you know.
Definitely, and it definitely feels that way, especially because I think when you look at the entire Black Dahlia catalog, when you look at Nightbringers or Abysmal or even Unhollowed or any of those records like Ritual, like it almost feels like, could these like represent on who you and Ryan and everybody else in the band were at that particular time?
Yeah, man, it's definitely, I look at the albums that way as like a photograph of a time and place in the band, and kind of like encompassing all of our personalities, you know, in a record. And yeah, man, I mean, I look back and I feel very proud of our growth. You know, I feel like we've made a mission to always stay the same band and be recognizable from the first few notes, hopefully, but also kind of satisfying our own selfishness in terms of making the songs more technical or more musically advanced, you know, just for our own like kind of sadistic satisfaction. You know, there's something about playing music, you know, like the newer stuff that we wrote is just so much more satisfying to play live for some reason. Like, it's more colorful, there's more dynamics, you know, and when it comes across live and it's nice and clear, and it's just, you know, it's a moment of pride for us, you know. So I feel like yeah, this is just like further expansion, you know. I feel like the songs are still Black Dahlia, right, that you'll be able to recognize, but there is a lot more variety in this record than some of the stuff we've done. So
yeah, well, I think your entire catalog represents evolution in a way, because, you know, you obviously with every record there's always trial and error, but like when you evolve in so much, I mean, do you look back at like your earlier work with maybe a different point of view than when you like write newer material?
Yeah, you know, there's different turning points, I think, throughout the catalog. You know, I feel like The first one was at Nocturnal. That's when we started to use Pro Tools to kind of flesh out the songs. We were looking for a drummer at the time. And we didn't exactly know how that was going to end up, so we started writing songs into Pro Tools. And our new bass player at the time, Ryan Williams, Bart, he taught us how to use Pro Tools, and that just ushered in like a more complex era of songwriting, and it saw the songs developing way further than they ever had been before. And before that point, we were kind of like writing all together in the same room, like at band practice, just kind of jamming it out. And sometimes it would work, and sometimes it was like, pulling teeth. You have three or four people playing 4 different songs at the same time, But now the creative process is different, and I feel like another turning point was the Ritual record. That was when we realized, why don't we try to incorporate some samples during the songs, maybe some other instruments to enhance things, some piano notes or some strings, some like symphonics and stuff. That's when we started to marry that kind of like a third dimension into the music, you know what I mean? And Ritual is when we realized that we needed to turn the dynamics in the band way up, that it would be okay to have some crushing slow songs that, had a different atmosphere than the fast songs, and everything in between. We started playing around with different time signatures and, like just all kinds of dynamic stuff. And that was a real turning point when I think that made the band more dramatic and cinematic and kind of, like I said, brought in another dimension and made the songs more than just two-dimensional,
Yeah, it seems like with every record, like more doors open up even for the future.
For sure, yeah, definitely, we're always absorbing information between tours, or between records, rather, we're listening to tons of music together, listening to music on our own, touring with lots of great bands, sometimes you play shows with bands you think suck, and you learn something from that too. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot to be learned out there. I feel like we're still, even 9 records in, I feel like we're a young band. I feel like we're still charging ahead and evolving, and we're still hungry to make the best music we can. And I feel like now we have more honed, more sharpened tools to do that than ever, so it's just been a growing and learning process. When we started with Unhallowed, we were so green. When we recorded that, we were just a bunch of kids, and we hadn't even really toured yet.
And you didn't even have the beard at that time, I don't
No,
think.
I think I could only grow like 3 chin hairs at a time then. And it's just gone so far from that. It was my dream just to make one record. I just wanted to have one record on a real label like Metal Blade. It was a huge honor to get signed by Metal Blade. I've been following them since I was a kid. And, I saw Metal Blade through the lens of it being like so important in the death metal scene. You had Cannibal Corpse getting blown up by them, and Broken Hope, and Immolation, and Vader. So, I just kind of like came in through that lens, really. Like, they were doing so much exciting stuff and extreme music, and that was like, Cannibal Corpse was my gateway band, or one of them, you know what I mean? And like Cannibal Corpse is really the biggest kind of model of what to do. Like, we look to them so much, they were always thinking globally, and having a global presence. They thought about how they were going to survive through different trends, and they just stuck to their guns. And they've survived so many fluctuations in metal's popularity, and now it's in this great upswing. This is a really great time, but talk about like the late 90s, death metal was kind of like in a lull. It was kind of hard times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just thinking about being able to survive through different trends and hopefully different generations, and we've just been very fortunate, man. It's awesome to still be here. It's I feel like we're still honoring the initial amazing opportunity we were afforded. We're trying our best to be as visible as we can. We tour as much as we can. We never say no, it feels like. We're always doing something, and that's kind of like the unwritten credo of the band is like, if you're going to be in Black Dahlia Murder, you're going on the tour. You know, we don't ask if you're going on the tour. You know what I mean? There's like, you're in the band, you know it's the first priority, and yeah, it's a big sacrifice. It's asking a lot of people, and I understand why we've had the positions in the band change hands as many times as we have, because it's a very grueling life. It's not glamorous. A lot of touring is comparable to camping or worse, you know. And there's a lot of hardships, a lot of sacrifice personally. But it's for the glory, man. You know, it's awesome. And like, I'm so thankful to have this amazing trajectory with the band where it's like a snowball just slowly getting bigger and bigger, album by album, and it's been an incredible ride, you know, to say the very least.
Absolutely. What I've always asked you, I don't think I've actually, in the previous 2 times I've asked you this, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but for lyrics, I mean, does a conceptual element in your lyrics ever help determine the outcome of the music itself in a way?
No, we've never gone that route, really. We've flirted with doing like full-on concept records that would follow a story arc in terms of like the types of songs and stuff, but we've never like really taken the leap in that, you know. But the opposite will happen, you know, where we'll, like on Verminous, I would say there's 3 songs directly kind of tied in with the Verminous theme, and you know, I'm like, with Verminous, I'm saying that death metal is the plague, and we are the rats and roaches and unwanted creatures that humans don't want to see. You know, we're the pariahs, but we're a very strong force in our numbers, and we're spreading that plague, baby.
That's like the greatest either compliment or greatest insult of all time. Like, good work. That's so open to interpretation. It's so deep.
You know, and it's just happened to be a really weird coincidence that we're doing all this, like, talking about the plague and stuff with the Verminous track and the themes of the art, and you know, and there's the coronavirus is like happening right now, and is like causing so much of a stir. And we had no idea a year and a half ago when we were writing this record that it was going to be synced up with this.
You predicted the future.
Yeah. Whoa, bro.
Oh my God. I'm actually, wow. I'm like,
yeah. You better take a few scoots back there, Alex.
One thing I actually wanted to ask you too is, you know, seeing you live so many times, especially in the Nightbringers record cycle between Summer Slaughter, the Whitechapel Flesh God tour, Meshuggah, Sonic Temple, all this, seeing you live is always a great experience, but it's always a different experience than simply listening to your album. I almost consider you a live band because of your stage interaction. For you, is there a similar energy in songwriting as you do when you're playing live, or is it a completely separate art altogether?
I feel like it's a different direction. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a certain energy in creation, and like I get really stoked to make new music with the guys. I feel like they evolve so much in a 2-year time of touring. You know, I just feel like we move so rapidly as a band. We play so many shows that there's a lot of information is absorbed, and a lot of different music is listened to and experiences are had. And by the time we come back to write, the guys have changed for the better, you know, like a lot, it seems like to me. So it's exciting for me to try to respond, but I feel like the creative energy and the live energy are different vibes totally. You know, like live is a little bit more of an animalistic kind of going with your instinctual thing, you know. And I consider the band a live band too. I feel like that's our strongest suit, and I feel like we've tried to be conservative in the studio with what we lay down. We want to be able to reproduce everything to sound exactly how we do on the records, you know. So we're not laying down 10,000 guitar tracks, you know, with a million harmonies and stuff like that. And you know, we keep it pretty stripped down. And I think that's what helps impress, you know. I think people come and they hear us live and it sounds the same as the records, you know, and that's impressive. But we try to be I don't know, exciting, you know. We try to give a lot of energy and put a lot of heart into it. And I don't know, I feel a real connection on that medium of performance, you know, where
absolutely.
I feel so blessed to be around metalheads. I feel like it's a rare treat, you know. Like real life for me, it's not all that great, you know. Like I love living out on tour. I love the stuff that revolves around the band and metal, And I kind of put my blinders on to the rest of life, you know, like I've really tunnel vision onto this thing.
Yeah, I see you like at many shows. Like when I'm not watching you perform, I'm still expecting you to be there. You and Dave Davidson, both of you, I'm always seeing you at every death metal show in New York City.
Oh man, that's one of the reasons that brought me out here, you know, just to be plugged into a scene that's just like totally popping off all the time. Awesome shows. Yeah, it's been really wild. It's been really great experience being out here. Even I even have to turn stuff down sometimes, you know, like there's too many shows. Sometimes there's too many on one night, you know, and you have to like kind of like whittle it down to what you want to do. So, you know, I'm not trying to slight Michigan and their scene at all, but it's just a world away from that, you know what I mean? Like say a band is going to come over here for the first time ever and play one or two shows, you know, where do you think they're going to play? They're going to play New York, you know what I mean, as one of them. Or like you have so many great bands coming through here in lieu of Maryland Death Fest, you know, on the way in and out of the fest, they'll stop through here. So, and there's a lot of great bands too from here, and the extreme scene is awesome. You know, there's still a lot of bands I want to see that I haven't seen out here. Imperial Triumphant, I really want to see those guys. Yellow Eyes are awesome. Sanguine Eagle. Just yeah, it's an awesome scene. It's inspiring to kind of like, you know, to come be a small part of the fabric, and you know, it's definitely inspiring.
Yeah. And I have two more questions for you. One of them is pertaining to the live presence, because I really feel like there was such an evolution, because, you know, people label you guys as death metal, but like, especially in the last couple of years, you've played with, I feel like you covered every aspect of the heavy spectrum. I mean, especially on Nightbringers. Last year you toured with Meshuggah and Flesh God Apocalypse, like, you know, different spectrums of the heavy. But even last year you were on tour with Insomnium and Black Label Society. I mean, like, you know, like, have you noticed like maybe different types of audiences now gravitating towards Black Dahlia Murder?
Oh, sure. You know, there's been a real... You know, I feel like just by being ourselves and kind of letting our personality hang out, and maybe like what we looked like when we started coming out with short hair and, you know, a kid with glasses on stage, it's like atypical, you know. And we've always been a kind of sore thumb band, but I think it's been advantageous actually, and I feel like we have fans from all walks of the heavy scene. So we try to really go after any kind of fan that likes us, you know what I mean? There's some fans that are way into deathcore that like us, that think we're a deathcore band, and that's fine. I don't care what people call us anymore. You know, there's long-haired, leather jacket, you know, more typical kind of metal guys getting into us, I think, a little bit more with every album, you know, as we get better chops. And I see all walks up, dude. I see punk rock dudes and, you know, just everything. So we try to go down every avenue, you know, whether it's Warped Tour, which is like a little definitely outside of our comfort zone, you know, to a more typical tour with Aborted or something, you know what I mean? That's more like right up our alley personally. So yeah, it's just kind of realizing the weird spot that we have in the scene and kind of taking advantage of that and trying to please every fan from every walk that likes the band. So sometimes it's an experiment and sometimes it doesn't work, you know, like sometimes it's a gamble. Like playing with a Black Label was something of a gamble, you know. I feel like we did walk away with some new converts, but I felt like we also scared a lot of their fans.
Well, Alien Weaponry, who was also really heavy, was on that tour too.
Right.
I think, like, yeah. So
yeah, I think they're a little bit more straightforward, you know, a little bit more digestible for the average BLS fan. But you know, you start throwing 280 BPM blast beats and you know, crazy death metal vocals and stuff, and some people are just like, whoa, you know. There were a lot of people, I think, just waiting up in front for a Black Label to come on and just kind of enduring the band, you know, like. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, man, we're always down to try something new. We always go as us, you know. We did Warped Tour, which is mostly a punk thing, or, you know, like all different kinds of genres that. But we always go as us, you know. We're a death metal band. We always carry ourselves the same. We always try to put on the best show we can.
Yeah. You
And,
stick to your guns, and you
Yeah,
welcome
we stick
everybody.
to our guns, and we welcome all comers, man. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what else you like. If you like the band, you're cool with me. And if you come to our show, you're just as welcome as anybody else. And I like the diversity that I see. You know, I feel like our shows are, you know, it's death metal. Death metal is like, all these lyrics are very negative, etc., etc. But it's such a positive outlet for people. You know, I think that death metal is still the escape from your everyday life, from work or whatever the hell else is bothering you. You know, I feel like being surrounded with like-minded individuals it feels good. It's a good thing, you know. And I don't know. It's just like a special. I don't know. I'm still so attracted to like the hidden world of heavy metal. You know what I mean? Like what it feels like when you kind of rip the top off and find out about metal, you just fall down that hole and you can't stop. You know, it's like.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome that you welcome everybody. You'll be on tour with Smashing Pumpkins before you know it.
Yeah, who knows?
And the final question I wanted to ask you was most difficult question of the interview. Back to the songwriting. How do you know when a song is done?
Sometimes it can be hard. You know, I think that it can be hard to know when a song is done. There's times where we'll tweak songs a lot. I think with the new record and like producing the album ourselves, well, Brandon did most of the production, and we recorded most of everything at his place in Jersey. We had so much control that we were able to tweak songs for weeks on end and change little tidbits and just little guitar fills and the details. So sometimes it's hard to know, man, but for us, it's usually about 3 minutes.
There you go. That was great. That was the best. Like you had the deepest build up, and then just that was the most anticlimactic answer, and I love it. Like great work. You answered that better than anybody I've asked this to. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Always great to talk to you, and I'm sure I'll see you at the next death metal show very soon.
Yeah, man, definitely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for the ongoing support,
Of course.
I'll see you around.
Yep. And just when is the new album scheduled for?
The new album is out April 17th on Metal Blade Records. It's called Verminous. It's green. Pick it up.
It's green, mean, and a death metal machine.
That's right.
All right. Everybody, Trevor of the Black Dahlia Murder, Verminous, out April 17th via Metal Blade. Pick that up then when supplies last forever. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.